Thank you, Rich. It is only through love that we are here today, and I am particularly excited about today's conversation. And I'm excited really because when we look at youth, it's how we oftentimes find hope. So I don't know what everybody's going to leave with here today. I don't know what the result of our conversation is going to be. But I would like to set it up as just a note. Valentina is 23 years old. She is a product of this church. She is embarking on things that are particular to her and her use of her talents and her uniqueness. But it is an opportunity to be hopeful for all of us. So we need to go way back, because you were probably around 4 years old when we started coming regularly to this church. And is it fair to say that you coming to church was not always by choice?
Yes, that is definitely fair to say. Is this on? Is this on?
Check.
Can you guys hear me?
Go ahead and check it.
Yeah, hello?
We good? Okay, very good.
Okay, good.
So not by choice.
Definitely not by choice in the beginning, no.
Okay.
Yes.
And later on, as you were looking for colleges, universities, what you were going to do after high school, you took a little bit different route, but you ended up choosing a Buddhist university.
Yes.
Why a Buddhist university?
It was actually, I had no idea that I was choosing a Buddhist university. I had moved out to Colorado and I went to community college for first year. So my freshman year was at community college, and it was just by chance that a coworker that I was working with at the time was going to this Naropa University, which is a Buddhist-inspired university. And she told me about it, and I just went and I toured it, and I was like, honestly, really turned off, because it was like a lot of fairy, hippy-dippy, weird stuff going on. People were barefoot with their shirts off. Like, I was so not used to it. And there was like a lot of resistance, and yet I still ended up signing up anyways, and I just ended up going, and it wasn't until like halfway through my first year that I realized it was founded by a Buddhist monk. But yeah, that it was totally by chance, and it just happened to be that way, but I did not go searching for it.
So from the time of you being 4 years old in this church, and you embarking on this different yet same spiritual path, because the teachings are always at their core the same, I'm curious as to what you remember about learning in this church that you were God.
I think what stuck with me the most was God was like never presented to me as something outside of me, or as like this entity that like watches over me, you know, that it's, you know, this man in the sky that like judges you right from wrong. I never grew up with that understanding. So when I was like confronted with that being people's idea of what God is, it always confused me, because it was just always instilled in me as this energy within me, or just this innate wisdom that we all kind of have inside of us. I don't know. It was never to me like a thing or a person. It was just like a presence. And it was always, and obviously I didn't comprehend this like as a child. Like, you can talk about it as a child. Like, I remember in Sunday school, you know, a lot of this just going over my head, but I think being exposed to an idea like that at such a young age was really impactful, because I never was really like necessarily set up to look outside of myself. even though I didn't know it at that point. I was never, I mean, obviously, like, I did my own searching outside of myself, but it never was like looking to something or like giving my power away because I didn't think I could do it myself, if that makes sense.
For those of us who grew up in a different faith, in a different practice, can you just imagine I'm just sitting here listening to this thinking how different my life would have been if I had understood that God is not outside of me. Like, just that alone, to know that God is not outside of us, not outside of anything, is amazing.
I do remember one conversation in particular with one of my friends from elementary school. And I don't remember how this came to be, but we were talking about, she went to like a Lutheran church, and we were talking about like our Sundays and how they like look different or look the same. And I remember saying, well, you are God and I am God too. And I remember her being like, oh, well, that's very arrogant of you, like to think that like you are God. And I was taken back. I remember him being like, no, but it's not like to boost myself up. Like, it's just to be like this like recognition, like. And now that I'm like talking about it, I'm like, whoa, that was pretty profound for like a 5-year-old. Anyways, I was taken back by her like assumption that it was like me trying to boost myself up, saying that I am God, because all I was doing was trying to like get her to acknowledge that like that strength and that power and that presence that God yields is actually like within you. But it was just taught in a different way. And yeah, it was just taught in a different way. And she was like really confused by like what I was saying.
So do you find it challenging in your own worldview now that just the term God itself, is that the word that you use? Because I know that it can be a loaded word for people, as we see.
Yeah, I think in my generation specifically, God is a very loaded word, and I think it, like, comes from like obviously like a lot of like religious trauma or whatever it was that people have experienced. That I think, and because God, I feel like, is so often presented as this person who judges like right from wrong, people are like, they're hesitant to like approach that topic. So I do like the word like universal consciousness more, or like divine consciousness, whatever it means, because I think it speaks more to like the energy field that I associate God with, right? When I say God, it's like, to me, I'm just automatically speaking about like consciousness and like the shared unity and the divine. But to me, since I grew up with it, I think that concept comes easier to me, whereas like somebody who didn't grow up like in unity or like grew up in a more traditional faith practice, I think there's a lot of strings attached to like what God is and like what it means. And so I think people are very they're very hesitant to use that word because it can be like, it holds such weight.
And do you find in your circle because you've had some very different experiences in your college years, it's not, you didn't have a typical, you didn't go to a typical school, and you didn't have typical college experiences. So do you find that when you think of all of your circles of friends and people you know, is spirituality something that comes up easily? Or is it, like all things, dependent on the group that you're in, and sort of what are your takeaways from that?
Yeah, I think it is dependent on the group. I mean, my high school friends, I would say we never discuss that topic at all, ever. It's very I'm very woo-woo if I bring up the conversation of spirituality or God or a presence. But my college experience, I mean, everybody, I mean, God is something you could easily discuss. There were people of many different like religious backgrounds. I mean, it was a Buddhist-inspired school, but then also I was doing yoga studies, so I was also talking to a lot of people about Hinduism. I was also steeped in like yogic tradition, stuff like that. So I don't know if we were ever necessarily talking about God per se, but we were all pointing, or all the religions that I have had contact with, which would be Buddhism, Hinduism, and then unity. They all point to like something greater than ourselves, and they all have different names for it, right? But in all of them, there is an acknowledgement that there's something greater than ourselves, and that there is a universal presence from which we all come from, and from which we can all return to at any point. But yeah, it is dependent on the group that I'm in for sure. Yeah.
So if you were to pinpoint a very impactful experience that kind of took you from unconsciousness to consciousness, something that you would describe as having really had a big impact on shaping your current faith practice, belief system, whatever you want to call it. Is there a specific experience or a period of time that you can sort of pinpoint where now that you look back on it, you're like, oh, that was that awakening process?
I mean, there are many, but I think the one that comes to mind is my first year at Naropa. I started taking their yoga studies classes, and I was in their yoga 1 class, and I'd never done yoga before. I mean, for like fitness and stuff like that, but I didn't, so I was introduced to like all this like yogic philosophy and like these like ancient texts like the Bhagavad Gita and stuff like that, and also like the 8 limbs of yoga, which is like how do you live an ethical life both internally and externally, and just all this, I guess all this stuff that Unity had been talking about and all the stuff that I had already been exposed to as a child, but it was in different and new languaging, which I think is what intrigued me. And yeah, the one thing I will say, I think I was like really drawn to like yoga or Hinduism. I'm not a Hindu, but it's something that it's very intriguing to me, because I think there was like this acknowledgement of like the body, and that we can actually like use this. The only way to actually like reach enlightenment or the divine or reconnect with God is through the body. And I think that was like a really eye-opening experience to be like, oh, this isn't something that I need to like demean, and this isn't something I need to like hide. It's actually something that like with love and care and compassion, it actually like allows me to like connect with the divine and connect with God more. And I think the acknowledgement that we have a body and that we should honor this body was really big in yoga, and I think that's why I was so drawn to it. So yeah, I think my first semester at Naropa.
Nice. What challenges your faith? Or your beliefs?
I think, experiencing, I guess what we did in the last week, and like just being faced with the suffering of the world, it is really like your brain just wants to be like, there's just no way like this can happen if we all come from the same spot of like this love and like this divine energy. Or at least my brain wants to go on this like huge ego trip and be like, yeah, we're not from the same place. Like me and you, no, we're different. Like I want to put myself on a pedestal. Like I would never act in these ways. I would never commit atrocities. I would never harm, yada, yada, whatever it is. And although that might be true, it's like, two things can be true at once. Yes, I might not ever partake in atrocious acts, and yet I can still acknowledge that we still both come from this place of love and divinity and universal consciousness. And but that's like so challenging, right? I can like say that and I still don't want to accept it. And like putting that in practice is like a whole nother thing, to like be able to like look in the face of somebody who's like done you wrong or harmed you, and like still acknowledging that they are a child of God and they themselves are God, is like, yeah, I still haven't figured out how to do it, but like I know it's possible. But yeah, that I would say is probably and even like little things, not even like big things, but like even like when my sister was here, right? Like, it's like, no, I'm better than you. Like, I just know it. Like, I just know it. Like, you know, you just like, even with family, you don't want to admit it, but yeah, so.
Yeah. And in those moments, I literally feel like I'm two separate people at times, two completely separate. That's why last week when my sister was here, that was so challenging for me, because it was literally, okay, I have to be one person now. I'm used to being a different kind of person with her, and now I'm being asked to step up. What do you wish more people your age would understand as it pertains to faith and or spirituality?
I think that it like doesn't have to be so like dogmatic, and you don't have to, because I think most people are like, okay, if I'm going to be religious, I have to subscribe to one religion, and I have to do it perfectly, and I have to follow all these things, and yada yada, whatever it is. And I think if people just like came or approached religion with more of a curiosity and more of like a touch and go, rather than like, oh, I got to be all in and I have to listen exactly to what you say and I have to do it perfectly. And I think if people could understand that like you're allowed to bring a sense of like lightheartedness into religion, and it doesn't have to be this like heavy weight that makes you feel bad about all your decisions in life. Like, in fact, it is supposed to be the opposite. It's supposed to like give you the space to like look at your life and like reflect and like treat yourself with like kindness and compassion for like making decisions in which you probably didn't know any better at the time, right? It's like, yeah, so I guess just approaching with more lightheartedness, more curiosity, and like not subscribing to just one thing. Like, get curious about like other religions, and like, yeah, you don't have to, you're not being force-fed anything. You can challenge it too, and I think that's what I really enjoyed about like Naropa, is like this, it was like this space in which like you were allowed to question everything, and you were allowed to ask everything, and nothing was like forced. You were not like forced to digest anything. Like, you were given the space and time to see what works in like in your body, or to see what works in your life, because we all come from different paths, right? Like, I can't sit up here not knowing your childhood, not knowing your parents, and expect you to follow the same path I did. Like, that's insane, right? Like, I don't know what you need, and everybody needs different medicine. And so like, what you find in Christianity might be what I find in Judaism or Islam, or whatever it is. So yeah, just, yeah, curiosity, like I said.
So with that, we know that the internet is a powerful place and it can be used for all kinds of different things, but what do you think is advantageous then about, because the internet does, I believe, make all sorts of spirituality way more accessible to broader groups of people than any other time that we've ever lived in, which is kind of exciting. So I'm just curious as to how you see the digital world being a force of good, especially for your generation.
Yeah, I think it's challenging with the digital world because it's such a double-edged sword. Like, it can provide so much good and spread so much information, and make things so much more accessible. And I think you have to be willing to like curate that, because as we know, it's like, you know, it can just take you down rabbit holes that you didn't even ask for. So I think you have to be like really intentional with the way you approach social media, which is hard because nobody's really taught that. So yeah, I don't know. It's a challenging question because it's like, yeah, it can provide so much good information, and you have to be really decisive, especially because there's so much information. It's like, okay, what do I listen to? Who do I follow? What is AI? What is not? What is real? It's like there's a lot of, I think it can be a good entry point, to like get curious about different things and like see a wide variety of different opinions and stuff. But I think in order for you to like really get not serious about a practice, but I think it requires you to like step back from social media and go into community more, right? Because although social media might be able to like offer community, I think I think there's something to be said for like being in person and like actually going out and like seeking and getting out of your comfort zone. I think that's like part of the journey, right? And if we're just always just like on our phones scrolling in our bed, right? Are we ever like actually, we're never really being given the chance to like go and like put these teachings or like
into practice.
Into practice, yes,
Yeah.
Thank you.
What do you hope a future child of yours would understand about him or herself sooner than you did?
That's a good question. I think I don't know. Like, I would say, because like the body thing for me came much later, like an appreciation and like an acknowledgement from my body. So I would hope to like be able to give that to my child, I think sooner than I, because it was probably like once I started college where I was like, oh, like this isn't something that I need to like hide or be ashamed of. And it actually like does a lot of good for me. I think instilling that in my child at like a younger age would like, be really good for them.
I'm ready. So the last 10 questions are fast-paced. So I'm going to give you a starting part, and you're going to fill in the blank as quickly as possible. First thing that comes to mind, okay?
Okay.
God is.
Good.
I am.
God.
The purpose of life is.
Enjoyment.
The future looks bright because.
People.
My deepest wish for humanity is.
Liberation.
Prayer is.
Good.
My faith wavers when.
Suffering.
My go-to inner resource is.
Myself.
Thoughts have the power to.
Change.
Nice. Very good. So Valentina is going to lead us in a meditation, and then we will do the offertory affirmation and conclude our service for today. So would you like to do your meditation from there or from the...
I can do it here.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so just taking a moment. If you want to scoot a little bit off of your chair, finding a nice, strong back, maybe scooting a little forward, feeling your feet grounded on the floor. And then taking a moment maybe to close your eyes down if that feels good, or just gazing out softly in front of you. And starting to feel the support of the chair from below you. Feeling the support of your spine hold you up. And then taking a minute to connect with your breath. Not needing to change anything, but just becoming aware of what your breath feels like in this moment. Maybe it's located in your chest, maybe your belly. And seeing if you can deepen into that breath a little bit. Pulling that breath in through your nose and perhaps out through the mouth. And then starting to become aware of how your body feels in this moment. Perhaps scanning it, locating any tension you might be carrying from the day. Noticing where it might feel loose, where it might feel heavy. And again, not needing to change it, but just becoming aware of it. And letting that breath anchor you into this moment. And just feeling what it feels like to be you. No judgments, just awareness. Staying with your breath. And then just taking a few moments of silence here to just be with what is. And then I will read one of my favorite poems by Rumi, so you can continue to keep your eyes closed if you'd like. So this is called The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. They may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Thank you.
Valentina, everybody.